All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets against the Golden State Warriors. Now, the first week of the regular season is officially completed, and Houston is sitting here at 0-3. They did lose 106-95 last night against the Golden State Warriors. However, even though they shot 38% from the field, they only shot 27% from downtown. The good news is the turnover number was only 7. They only had 7 turnovers yesterday against Golden State. But they were in that game through all 4 quarters, all the way up until like the very end, the last half of the fourth quarter, where Steph Curry made like 4 straight 3-pointers to pretty much seal the deal. After the first game of the season to the Orlando Magic and then the brutal loss to the San Antonio Spurs, there is definitely progress. The Houston Rockets are certainly getting better. Jalen Green, 8 of 20 last night, 21 points, 9 rebounds. However, one thing I like with Jalen Green so far this season, I know it's been a slow start, but it's been a slow start for pretty much every player on the Houston Rockets. The efficiency and the ease of buckets that he's been getting, a lot of easier layups, a lot more open jump shots. I like it, and I think it's a sign for things to come. We got to keep in mind, a lot of these guys, our starting point guard's Fred VanVleet. Freddie wasn't on the Houston Rockets last season. Dillon Brooks wasn't on the Houston Rockets last season. Ime Udoka wasn't on the Houston Rockets last season. So these are going to be things that take time. If I had to make a guess for how many wins Houston will win after the first 3 games, if I had to overreact to our first week of the season, I would probably say like 30, 31, 32. But I still think this team will clear 35 wins as the season progresses. Now, only 2 games on the slate this weekend, or this week, I should say. You've got Charlotte at home, and then you have Sacramento at home. I think there's a huge home stretch for the Rockets coming up, so it's going to be critical that they can at least start to win, because there's a couple of things that I want to see from Houston this season. I want to see a culture. I want to see an identity, defensive identity with Ime Udoka and Dillon Brooks at the helm here. I want to know who my superstar is. I want to know who my franchise player is. I think it's going to be Alperen Sengun. But finally, this team just needs to learn how to win. Ever since I started covering the Houston Rockets back when, what was that, like the start of the 2020 season, once they traded away James Harden through a month of that year, this has been either the worst team or the second worst team in the NBA. So I need this team to just learn how to win, right? And it's going to take time, man. It's going to take time. So before we get into the video, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit the like button, hit that sub button for daily Rockets content. I think what we're going to do is we're going to use highlights as the game recap, so I can just get these out really quickly. And then we should be able to do the podcast 3-4 times at least every single week, where we'll talk more bigger picture stuff. So be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button if you haven't already. We're just going to go top to bottom on this list here. Jabari Smith Jr., 14 points, 8 rebounds, but most importantly, 5 assists. Jabari Smith Jr. with 5 assists last night, 2 steals, 34 minutes, only 2 of 6 from downtown. However, he did go 6 of 12 from the field goal. Jabari is one of these players. He's in his sophomore campaign here. On the season, he's technically averaging 11-7. I don't really think statistics matter 3 games into the regular season. It is just very important to note this kid is still just 20 years old. I know he was the third pick in the draft last season, but he is still just 20 years old. I don't need Jabari to be anything crazy, and I think a great comparison for what I want Jabari Smith Jr. to be is almost like an Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's extremely vital. He's extremely important to the success of the Denver Nuggets. He's got so much defensive versatility that we see similar with Jabari Smith Jr. However, Jabari is much longer, a little bit bigger, and he can stretch the floor. He can knock down these threes, but it's going to take time. I don't think Jabari Smith Jr. is our superstar. I don't think, I think maybe he can make a couple of all-stars. Granted, it is the Western Conference and it's just loaded, but who cares about all-stars? I like what I've seen from Jabari, and I really liked what I saw last night. Dillon Brooks, don't let that stat sheet fool you. This man was all over Steph Curry. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 of 10 from the field, 2 of 5 from downtown. He almost fouled out there. But Steph Curry, I think he did a phenomenal job. I think Dillon did a great job. We were on the show today, and I heard, the Rockets were one of our losers for the week, obviously being 0-3 here. Got a question saying, what's going on with Dillon Brooks? I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching these games. Nothing's happened to Dillon Brooks. I love the chip on his shoulder. I love the intensity that he brings, whether you love him, whether you hate him. He's on the Houston Rockets. I think most Rocket fans have welcomed him. I think actually pretty much every Rockets fan, as they should, has welcomed him and opened him with open arms. That saying didn't make sense, but hopefully you get what I'm saying here. I love the intensity that this dude brings on defense. I think it's so important for establishing our defensive culture. Alperen Sengun, if you guys follow my Twitter, if you guys have been following this page for a while, you know my stance on Alperen Sengun. I think he is the franchise cornerstone. I think Amen Thompson's right behind him. 19 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. He went 7 of 15 from the field, 1 of 2 from downtown. It's hard to kind of, it's 3 games in. It's kind of hard to notice any trends. I think we need, in general with basketball, I think you need at least 20 games. I think it takes, however many 20 games takes you, 6 weeks of the season to kind of establish who you are, who you aren't, your strengths, your weaknesses. But I love my man, Alperen Sengun. I think he's added a couple of tricks to his bag, and I'm very bullish on him in general, but especially this season, establishing himself as a star center in the NBA. Jalen Green, we already mentioned Jalen Green a little bit. He's yet to really get going. He had a horrible first game against the Orlando Magic. It's a new system. It's new players. Jalen Green will be just fine. I saw an interesting statistic. I should have, screen grabbed it. He's putting up 16 and a half points per game, or 16 or 17 points per game since he got into the NBA. Jalen Green will be just fine. The dude's a scorer. He's going to go through shooting nights where he's on fire. He's going to have games where he isn't on fire. And, we'll get that 30 bomb sooner rather than later. I guarantee you, though, if Freddie Double V, Rockford's finest, 8 points, 4 assists, 2 of 13 from the field, 2 of 7 from downtown, he didn't have a turnover. I guarantee you if Freddie last night played, kind of like the way he did, especially against the San Antonio Spurs, if Freddie was Fred VanVleet last night, I think the Houston Rockets would have won this basketball game. He took full accountability. He pretty much placed the blame and the loss on himself. I love my man, Freddie Double V. Moving on to the bench, Amen Thompson, 9 points, 4 rebounds in just 19 minutes of play. He did have a steal, 3 of 5 from the field, 1 of 2 from downtown, and most importantly, especially after his first game against the Orlando Magic, he had 0 freaking turnovers. Jae'Sean Tate, 6 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, only 21 minutes. Jae'Sean Tate was one of the best Houston Rocket players last night. I'm still very cautiously optimistic about Jae'Sean Tate making an impact on this team, but I think 3 games into this season, I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I would urge the Rockets to play him 20 minutes a night as they have this season. Uncle Jeff, Unc's kind of been playing really nicely, with Tari Eason being out for 3 more weeks at least. 6 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Didn't shoot well. He had a nice block, but I like his intensity. I like his hustle. I think Jeff Green, Reggie Bullock, Jae'Sean Tate, having these veterans in your bench unit, I do like what they bring. So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. The Rockets will be just fine. We've got 2 more nights until the Houston Rockets play the Charlotte Hornets. I really want them to win that basketball game. I do not want to start off the season 2-8. I want to start the season at least 4-6. So hopefully they can go on a winning streak now that they're at home. That's it for today, man. If you hit it, or if you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit that sub button. We're actually a little rusty making this Houston Rockets content. I'll try to get a stream out to you guys, but as you know, I cover the NBA or the NFL now, and Monday and Sunday are kind of my busiest days. So we'll get a stream out before the next Houston Rockets game. But peace.